So in this video, I'm going to talk about the second no motivation method. No motivation means that you don't need motivation. You're going to do what you have to do to achieve your goal, period. It's really that simple. That's what I call the no motivation method. The second method is called contracting. If you have to do something, then make sure that it's a contract. And once you sign a contract, the other party is going to pay you because it's in the contract. At the same time, if you fail to fulfill the contract, then there's going to be a penalty. And so this is one thing I learned from Rich Schefren, one of the early internet marketers. In one candid video, he said something that's very shocking. He said that he's a kind of entrepreneur who is focused on ideas and developing new tools and techniques, and he's not really good with execution. So he came up with a very clever mechanism. He would charge people upfront for group coaching, let's say every Monday from, I don't know, 9 to noon, right? So he commits himself because he already received the money from people, and therefore he has to show up for group coaching. And that's how he can keep the money. But also he understood that, he values his reputation. So imagine if he didn't show up for group coaching, his reputation would be shot, right? So that's the old carrot and stick method. The carrot represents the reward that you're getting for doing something you have to do, and the stick represents the punishment that you would incur if you don't do what you said you would do, what you promised to people that you would do. So contracts are very, very powerful when it comes to making sure that you stick to what you said you would do and you stay committed. Without contracts, it's very, very easy for people to just abandon because life is so unpredictable and people are very fickle. We like to think that human beings are rational, but we're not very rational. We are subject to the whims and to our moods every day, and we can change our minds all the time. Another example of this method where you don't need motivation is when you're purchasing a house, right? So people are buying a house or a condo, they enter into a mortgage and they have to pay the mortgage. They have to, and therefore they have to keep their job. If you don't keep your job and you quit because you don't like the boss, you don't like the work, you don't like your co-workers, then you're not going to be able to pay the mortgage and the bank is going to take your house. So that's a very heavy penalty, right? And so, a lot of times people would buy a house because it ensures that you stick to your job. Um, in contrast, if you just rent an apartment, then there's no mechanism that would force you to keep your job. If you don't like your job, you don't like your boss, you can just quit. Who cares, right? And you can pay your rent late. You can you negotiate something with your landlord. Your landlord is more likely to be flexible, more flexible in any case than the bank. The bank are very strict. You're late, you don't pay your mortgage, they send somebody over and they take your house, right? So that's an example. That's a very big example of how to use contracts. In this case, a mortgage. How to use contracts to make sure that you keep doing what you're supposed to do. Once again, I just want to remind you that this video series on the no motivation method is meant to help you by leveraging your psychology. So especially the psychology about pain and about pleasure. That's what we call the carrot and the stick method. There's another powerful psychological motivator called preservation of energy, but I'll talk about that in a future video. In this video, I just want to finish off by saying that you can create all kinds of contracts with all kinds of people, and a contract by definition is an agreement between two strangers, right? You don't have to the other person doesn't have to be your friend, your family. It doesn't have to be somebody you've met in person. You can write a contract with somebody online, somebody in your LinkedIn network, for example, and agree to a certain performance. And if you fail, then you get punished. If you succeed or if you do perform, then the other party is going to reward you, and you can do the same thing for the other party to help them to maintain their commitment, so that you can actually help each other, and it's going to be a mutually beneficial contract.